Let me start by asking you all a question. What is the difference between a rasagula and a gulab jamun? No. What is the difference between existing and living? Are they the same, or is there something different between them? How would you differentiate between someone who is existing in this world and someone who is really living? Does anyone have any ideas for me how you would differentiate between the two? If you do see a difference. Yes, at the back there.
Existing is the person who just, I think, in the materialistic world, just existing. But the person who is really living is following the scriptures and going by the scriptures and finally going to the spiritual world.
Excellent. So existing means to live by the parameters of the world, to live in the, as we would say in English, the rat race.
Yeah.
One person once said to me, even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So, are you in the rat race, or are you living in this world according to a whole nother bunch of principles, yeah? In English, they also say, keeping up with the Joneses. You know this saying? Okay, the Jones is like a typical English family, so keeping up with your neighbors. If you're in India, it would be keeping up with the Patels. If you're in Denmark, I don't know, you'd be keeping up with the Hansons. Yeah, okay, there you go. Someone else, what is the difference between existing and living? Yes?
Prabhu, last time you said we have two duties. One is Sansara and Sanatana.
Okay.
So existing is like Sansara Dharma only, and living, I think, is balance between.
Yeah, existing means just the worldly duties. Living means looking at your spiritual aspect also. Very good. Yes?
Maybe existing is just living by default, and living is living by a plan, like existing with a plan in mind.
Living is living by default. Existing is living by default, but living is having a plan, having a vision, having a sense of a better future. The future is bright. The future is orange. There used to be an advert like that.
I think it's
it's more than orange. It's effulgent. Yes, yeah.
We just also always hear this art of living, like like they have all said that existing is like you just exist, but the art of living is like, for me, the word living, it implies like love, like colors, like blooming, like the ability to appreciate love and the exchanges of God's grace in the world.
Existing may be some achievements or some external success, but living means internal quality of life. Higher emotions, love, feelings of gratitude, feelings of real contentment and satisfaction. Yes. Anyone else? Yes.
I think existing could be by default, as you said, but living is just being aware about your existence.
Living is being aware of your existence, okay? Yeah, sometimes you can live in autopilot, isn't it? You're not even aware, like, yeah, it's amazing. Very good, yes, there is a difference between existing and living. When we're existing, we're going with the flow of life. Wherever the world takes us, whatever demands come, whatever pressures are put upon us, we end up just going with that flow. But when we're living, we find our flow, we find our purpose, we set a conscious direction. When you're existing, you're basically in this world trying to survive. How many of you sometimes think life is just like survival, isn't it? Survival of the fittest. You know, we have a book back there, Rethinking Darwin. Survival of the fittest. But when you're living, you're not just looking to survive in the world. It's not just about paying your bills. It's not just about keeping, your mom and dad off your back. It's about thriving. It's about finding your potential. It's about discovering what more you could do, what more there may be. when you're existing, most of the things you do in life are the things that you do because you have to do them. When you're living, you're doing things because you want to do them. Does that mean a person who's living never does things that they have to do? No, they do. Everyone has things you have to do. But it means that we're not just, we're actually consciously finding our life rewarding. Yeah. You know Steve Jobs, Apple? He used to say, every day when I wake up, I ask myself, if today was my final day in this world, would I be doing what I'm doing today? And when the answer is no, for too many days in a row, then I know I need to change my life. So try it for the next 7 days. When your alarm goes off, don't just hit the snooze button. You can do that if you want to. But when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself this question for the next 7 days in a row. If today was my final day in this world, would I be doing what I'm doing today? And if it's 7 no's out of 7, go and speak to Janardhan. Okay, I'm just joking. I'm just joking around, yeah. Whatever it may be. Question. When we're existing, we're seeking security. But when we're living, we're seeking discovery. Have you ever seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs? You've seen, right? Security is very low on the scale. We need security. No one's saying don't have security. Is the whole purpose of life to be secure, comfortable, and safe? Or is there something more to discover? Security is only a platform from which you discover potential. When you're existing, your life is controlled by external factors, but when you're living, you're controlling your life. When you're existing, you're getting through the day. Ever feel like that? Midday, and you're looking at your watch like, oh my God, 5 more hours to go. Keep the determination. When you're living. When we wake up, do we look forward to the day ahead? Interesting. When you're existing, you're looking for an escape. When you're living, there's no need to escape. Do we live the whole year for a 1-week holiday that we get off? Do we work 5 days just for the 2 days that we get off? These are deep questions if you think about it. When we're existing, we're comparing with others. But when we're living, we're comparing with ourselves. Maybe there could be many more things. When you exist, you may get some pleasure and you'll get a whole bunch of frustration as well. But when you live, you'll find happiness and satisfaction. You can take a mental note, or if not, a screenshot on your phone of this, and ask yourself, honestly, not just that, oh no, I'm coming to a spiritual place, of course I'm living. No, honestly. For one to look at their life and ask themselves, how much of my life am I existing? And how much am I living? Because I often look at this list and I catch myself getting into a mode of life where I'm just existing. Is life meant for existing, or is life meant for living? This is why scriptures are so important. I saw this once when I was going on a train somewhere in London, and I thought, wow, that's good. The most dangerous phrase in the language is, we've always done it this way. We have a certain pattern of life that we go in. There's a certain pattern of life that the world sets for us. There's a certain pattern of life that is the expectation. And then we just go along with that. But it's a very, very dangerous phrase, because it means we may be blocking ourselves from what could be, from the better life that could be there. So, why am I talking about all of this? Because if you want to go from existing to living, if you want to make the shift from the left to the right, then there is one amazing tool that you can access that will help you do that. And shall I tell you what that tool is? The scriptures, the shastra, the what we call in Sanskrit grantha. You know, a scripture in Sanskrit is called a grantha. And the etymology of this word is that grantha comes from the Sanskrit word granthi. Does anyone know what the Sanskrit word granthi means?
Plant. Plant.
Plant?
Plant.
No, who reads the Granth?
Yeah, it's one who reads the... Yeah, that's also true. But what is it actually... What's the etymology of the word? Granthi, you'll find a verse in the Bhagavatam. Bhidyate hridaya granthis chidyante sarva samsayaha kshiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmani ishvare. Granthi means a knot. Did you know that you have many knots in your heart? And let me tell you, these are knots that an X-ray machine will not reveal. These are knots of attachment. We have many attachments. We have many ropes in our heart which are binding us to a material life. And these granthis, the grantha, or the scripture, is that thing which can help you to break those knots. The grantha or the scripture is that thing which can break you from the mold of life. The scripture is that thing which can give you freedom to go from existing to living. And therefore we find that God has given many, many scriptures in this world. And amongst all the scriptures of the world, the scriptures of the Vedic tradition are said to be perhaps the most comprehensive revelation of reality. That's not to say that the other scriptures in the world are wrong. No. Our own teachers within the Vedic tradition say that if one follows the Bible sincerely, they will gain great spiritual benefit. If one follows other scriptures with genuine sincerity, they will get benefit. But when one looks at everything objectively and looks at the Vedic scriptures, then they will be able to see very clearly that this is the most advanced revelation of spiritual truth. Here you see the complete kind of scope of the Vedic literatures. The Vedic literatures deal with two divisions of knowledge, apara-vidya and para-vidya. Apara means material knowledge, and para-vidya means spiritual knowledge. The Vedic teachings deal with both departments of knowledge. The Vedic teachings will help you to live better in the world here and now, apara-vidya. For example, have you heard of Ayurveda? What is Ayurveda? It's all the ancient art of medicine, how to live with vitality and with good health. Helps you in the here and now. Have you heard of Jyotish or Vastu? Have you heard of Vastu? Who's heard of Vastu? Vastu is like how to energize the space around you so that you can maximize your potential. This is all apara-vidya. And then there is para-vidya. the departments of the Vedas which are dealing with spiritual truth, spiritual knowledge. And so, this is a huge amount of knowledge that's available. And Srila Prabhupada, his life work was to translate 3 books within these. He translated many more, but we can say these 3 are the foundational books which Srila Prabhupada translated and gave to the world, because they take one on the complete journey so that you can live life to the fullest, most satisfying and happy extent that it can be. Bhagavad-Gita, all of you have heard about, is the foundational study. Srimad Bhagavatam, which we talked about last week, is the graduate study. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, on the altar we have Gaura Nitai. So the life story of Gauranga, the biography of Gauranga, is known as Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so these 3 books take one on a journey of initial spiritual knowledge, which helps one to get a detachment of the material world, to ultimate spiritual revelation, which connects one to the transcendent spiritual reality. If you look, there's a very definite thread between them. How does the Bhagavad-Gita begin? Krishna tells Arjuna the most foundational spiritual knowledge. Dehinosmin yatha dehe komadam yovanam jara. Let's start at square number 1. Understand you're not this body, but you are a spiritual being. That's where it must begin. You must understand this truth very deeply. And then after telling Arjuna many things, then what does Krishna say? Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam braja. Once you understand you're a soul, then give up all this external religion. Give up all your rituals. Give up all this type of practice of dharma that's just aimed at getting better material benefit. And grasp the essence of what dharma is, which is to enter a relationship of surrender with God. So where does the Bhagavatam begin? Dharma projita kaita votra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Bhagavatam begins by saying, this book, it doesn't deal with any cheating religion. It doesn't deal with any materialistic religion. This book, Bhagavatam, is going to deal with love. And how does Bhagavatam end? Nam sankirtanam yasya sarva papa pranashanam. That if you ultimately want to develop love in your life, Nam sankirtanam yasya, dedicate yourself to chanting the holy names of Krishna. So where does Chaitanya Charitamrita begin? Mahaprabhu says, Apaniya chari bhakti korila prachar. I will come to this world and teach people how to chant the holy names of Krishna. And how does Chaitanya Charitamrita end? Japite japite mantra korite pagal. I'm chanting this mantra again and again, and I've become completely mad. A good type of madness. Madness in love of Krishna. So this is the journey of spiritual life. If you really want to go from existing to living, then the step number 1 is to understand I'm not this body. I have a bigger mission. I have a bigger purpose. I have a bigger goal in my life. And when I wake up every day, I can't just be thinking of my material goals. I have to ask myself, what am I going to do today to reach my spiritual goal? So that's where it begins. And then through these books, it takes you on a whole journey which can ultimately take you to the highest level of divine love. What more exciting journey do you want to go on in life than this? There's no more exciting journey. And the books that will help you navigate that journey tell you what's the next step, tell you how to redirect your route if you go wrong, tell you how to deal with every situation and obstacle which may come up. What is that roadmap? That's these scriptures which were given by Srila Prabhupada. So here you see Srila Prabhupada translated these literatures. When we open up these books, we may not realize how much effort Srila Prabhupada put into putting these books together. You see here, I'm just going to draw here. This is Devanagari. Have any of you heard of Devanagari?
The Bible?
Deva means the gods, and Nagari means language. So Devanagari literally means the language of the gods, Sanskrit. So Srila Prabhupada, he took all of these ancient manuscripts that were in Sanskrit. And then what he did, if you see here, this is called Ucharan. Ucharan means transliteration. So what Srila Prabhupada did is he took the Sanskrit original script and then painstakingly put it in Romanized characters so that anyone can read it. So now we can all read this Sanskrit. I don't read Devanagari, but still I can read it by the grace of Srila Prabhupada because he did the transliteration. Here you can see, Maitreya Uvacha Nishamyatma Bhutva Gitam Karanam Sankyayo Jitaha Tata Sarve Nyavartanta Tridivaya Diva Kusha. Anyone can read it. That's amazing. And then, what did he do here? This is known as the synonyms. In Sanskrit we say Padar Tokti. So he gave a word by word for every single Sanskrit word. So no one can say, how did you translate it? You know, see, imagine you just had this and then you had this. And you just went direct from there to there. No one would be any the wiser. How did you come to that translation? You could say anything. You know, you could just put anything there, you know, that we want to put. So there's got to be authenticity. So to create authenticity, he gave the Padartokti. And then what he did is he gave the Vyakya Yojan. This means the translation. And not only that, what he then did is he wrote Tika. This is nothing to do with like a curry that you get in a tandoori restaurant or anything like that, yeah? Tika means commentary. Have you ever seen a video of Srila Prabhupada translating? He has many, many books. He's referring to many, many commentaries. And what he's doing is looking at all the commentaries and he's taking the essential message from every commentary and then he's putting it into the purport. So Srila Prabhupada did this for practically every single verse. Of course, every single verse doesn't have a purport, but 700 verses in the Gita, 18,000 verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11,000 verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is painstaking. But why did he do it? Because these are the roadmap to take one from existing to living and allowing one to actually experience. But then many say, I read the books, but I don't get the benefit from it. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada outlines that if you really want to read the scriptures and get the benefit that's available, you have to read the scriptures in line with disciplic succession. You have to learn it in tradition. These books, you can't just take them home and just read it yourself and understand it. You need to learn them in a tradition. You need to study very scrutinizingly. You need to study with the help of those who are actual devotees of Krishna. and you need to study it without any personally motivated interpretations. So if someone comes and says, well, I've been reading these books, but I'm not getting much from it. It's not really doing much for me. Then we would say, go back, dear friend, and look at the methodology by which you're studying. Because if you don't get the methodology of study right, you won't get the full benefit. And so Srila Prabhupada not only wrote the books, but then what did he do? He created a whole movement in order for one to actually then be able to study those books. And this is the great contribution of Srila Prabhupada. It's 4:25, and I have to finish in 5 minutes, right?
We don't mind you going 5-10 minutes over. No. Yes. But make your point.
No, I can do the next part in 5 minutes, but I thought it might be nice to ask some questions if anyone has any questions. So shall I do that, or shall I just present?
Sure.
Would anyone like to ask any questions based on what has been presented or anything that we've talked about today? Yes.
I want to, if you clarify this, no personally motivated interpretation, what does that mean?
You see, there are two types of people who approach a book. One person who already has an idea, and one person who comes as an open mind, blank slate. When we already have an idea, this is what I want to do in life, this is what I want to prove, this is what I want to get verification for, and then you read the books, then you don't find the actual message that the book is trying to give you. Rather, you only find things that you cherry pick, things that resonate with you, that back up what you want to do. So when we say don't go with personally motivated interpretations, it means go with an open heart and an open mind and see what Krishna wants to tell you. Yeah? Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to get the real message. Anyone else like to ask any questions or make any comment? Yes.
Yeah, go back to existing and living. I mean, a person is in Grihasthashram with it's not existing because they are bound to do some mundane tasks in life. But your soul is longing for a living beyond what we are existing. So, how do we go about this and how do we handle this?
Very good question. So when you're living in the Grihastha ashram and you have to deal so much with the world, it seems quite impossible not to exist. You have to exist. You see, the point of this table is not to say that you shouldn't be doing anything which helps you to exist in life. Of course, if you don't have food on the table, if you don't have money in the bank, if you don't have a roof over your head, forget about living. You won't be alive to live. The point is, that's not where life should stop. Why do you have a job? Why do you have a home? Why do you have money in your bank account? That is not the goal of life, but that's a means to the end. But for most people, that's the goal of their life. So firstly, we should understand that deeply. The second thing I would say is, it takes a little bit of effort, but gradually what you got to try and do is live your Grihastha life in such a way that even your duties throughout the week are contributing to your spiritual growth. Can you start doing a career which is more in line with your dharma and which also helps you to serve Krishna through that career? These are things that you can generally start doing slowly. Like one of my friends, he's an initiated devotee. He was a lawyer, and he was earning a lot of money, and that money was maintaining his life. But he said, this job isn't doing anything for my spiritual consciousness. In fact, it's detrimental. But how can I give up my job? I need the money. So you know what he did? From working 5 days a week he said, for the next 6 months, I'm only going to work 4 days a week as a lawyer. And in the other day, I'm going to experiment with a coaching type of job where I'll be able to earn money, but I'll also be able to do something which is more in my nature and which will ultimately help me to serve Krishna. So he started with 1 day. And then after 6 months, he did 3 days of lawyer work, 2 days of coaching. And within 2 years, he completely made a transition from being a lawyer to being a coach. Now he's a coach. He earns as much money as he was earning before, but now he does a job which is in his dharma, and the skills from that job he can use to create a spiritual change in the world. He comes to me now, he says, my job is a service. Are we going to be able to take the risk in our life to start trying to do that? To give up security, to give up comfort, to give up safety is not easy. But if you want to really live, we got to start molding a life in which everything is contributing to our spiritual journey. Can we make our family life a service so that when you're taking care of your kids, you're spending time with them and it's also a service because you're reading Gita together or because you're talking about spiritual things together? Then you're spending time with them and it's developing your spiritual life. So we have to look towards a life of integration. Does that help? So anyway, there could be many, many questions, and perhaps on another occasion we can look more closely at this. But essentially what I wanted to show to you today is just some of these things about how these scriptures are so amazing and how we can read them. And Untitled Prabhu, he asked me to share with you a little bit about an initiative we have in London called the School of Bhakti. And who knows, perhaps in the future we can also have something like this here. And this is really a school where we bring people together to actually study these scriptures in a systematic way that relates to their life. So the School of Bhakti, we began it a couple of years ago. It's been going on for many years, but in this incarnation 2 years ago. And really the purpose of this school is to explore your purpose. Find out, what is my purpose in this world, my bigger purpose in the eternal journey. Finding connection, what are the spiritual tools and practices that will really allow me to connect to God and experience God. And then ultimately unleashing joy. So this is the manner. I don't know how many of you have been. This is our beautiful temple in on the outskirts of London. It was donated by George Harrison, the Beatles. So we've begun the school there. And now we have a growing community of people who are coming and who are learning books like the Bhagavad-Gita, like the Srimad Bhagavatam. But they're learning these books in a way in which the ancient wisdom is something they can go away there and then on that day and apply to their life. And in this way, the scriptures, Srila Prabhupada's books are coming alive. So we have many, many different events, many, many different programs. Here you can see we look at contemporary issues, we look at scripture, and we go through books like Bhagavatam. We do courses on lifestyle, how to live in a better way in the world. We're also online, so you can see all of these things. We do online to share spirituality with people. And we're also expanding all over the world, and we hope in Scandinavia soon we will also have branches. So we have now many, many ISKCON initiatives all over the world who are partnering with us. And here you can see on the bottom, these are some of our courses. They've been translated into Spanish, many other languages as well. And these are some of the courses you can do. So if any of you are interested, even though you're not in London, lucky for you, Prabhupada said London is hell. It's not that bad if you come to the manor. but you're not in London, but you can still do many of the courses. We have many courses online. So if you would like to try out doing some of the courses, then that's very much possible. And this was something just to share with you about the School of Bhakti and how really Srila Prabhupada said the best of me is in my books. And so really the more that we can distribute these books all across the world, and the more that we can then help people to really understand those books and apply them to their lives, that will really be the best contribution we can make. And I guess that's all I wanted to say. And just one final plug. Am I allowed to do one final plug? Madhurena Samapayat. End with a sweet, yes. So what we did some years ago is we produced this book. This is a book which is basically a summary of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. So it goes through all 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam, and then it tries to pick out like very practical lessons from every single canto. I came on a budget flight from London, which only allows you 21 kg in your luggage. So I managed to bring about just a few books, and we only have 4 left. So this is Prashant here. So if you'd like to take one of these books, maybe you can speak to him. We just ask whatever donation you want to give, you can give.
We're going to auction them?
For those of you who don't get a physical book, we made it available completely free for download. So you can still get it on a PDF. If you go to this website, schoolofbhakti.com, then you'll get not only this book, but we've also done summaries for the Chaitanya Charitamrita, for the Bhagavad-Gita. Many other books are available for free download, but if you like a physical copy, there's a few there, so you can speak to Prashant. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to share something with you. I hope it was relevant, and most of all, I did it to remind myself that life is meant for living, not for existing. And so when we go home today, maybe we can all ask ourselves, on Wednesday, Kartik is beginning. Many of you know Kartik. For those of you who don't know, it's a very spiritual month, a very spiritually charged month. And it's said that whatever you do in this month, you get multiplied benefit. You get so much benefit. So what the devotees of Krishna traditionally do in this month is they take a vow to do something extra. Maybe chant a little bit extra, maybe read a little bit extra, maybe eat a little bit less. So take advantage. It's such a beautiful time of year. I guess here at the temple they'll be doing candle offerings as well. Yeah. In the evenings and the mornings. Make an effort. It's a beautiful month, and even in modern self-development they say, if you do something for 30 days, you know what happens, right? It becomes a habit. So Krishna was the ultimate self-development guru. He knew how the system works. So please make an effort and take advantage. There's so much spiritual wealth which Srila Prabhupada has given us. We are inheritors of great spiritual wealth, so let us take full advantage. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
His Grace Sutapa Prabhu ki jai.